An independent report has concluded emotional abuse and sexual misconduct has been systemic in the top tier of women's football in the USA. An investigation was commissioned 12 months ago after two former National Women's Soccer League players came forward with allegations of harassment and sexual coercion involving former coach Paul Riley. Riley denied the allegations but was sacked as head coach of North Carolina Courage. Players boycotted games and NWSL Commissioner Lisa Baird resigned. In addition, 5 of the 10 head coaches in the NWSL left their role last season amid allegations of misconduct. The report claims the abuse is rooted in a deeper culture in women's football, beginning in youth leagues. 3 players, Sinead Farrelly, Mana Shim and Erin Simon, who currently plays for Leicester City, released this statement in response to the report. There have been too many years of inaction and too many empty promises made while players suffered at the hands of the league. No one involved has taken any responsibility for the clear role they played in harming players, not the teams, not the league and not the federation. They chose to ignore us and silence us, allowing the abuse to continue. It is time for action, accountability and change. Owners who have driven a culture of disrespect, who are complicit in abusing their own players, have no place in this league and should be removed from governance immediately. This will be the first of many necessary steps to finally hearing our voices and keeping our players safe. Well, governing body US Soccer said it would move immediately to implement reforms. Among the recommendations is the implementation of an incident reporting system as well as a stronger background screening process.
I found the whole report challenging to read. Obviously this is near and dear to my heart. I've been a part of this game all my life and then from the youth all the way up to the professional level and an international level. And so the women's game is really important to me and many of the players in this report, I know, many of them I coached. And I found the whole report shocking, as I did your initial report, as new things come up. And, I just found it really maddening that players had to go through this.
Well, former England forward Leanne Sanderson spent a number of years playing in the States during her career and joins us live now. Good afternoon to Leanne. There is some awful stuff in that report. Just wonder how you react to everything you've seen and read and heard.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think hearing Cindy Parlow-Cone talk there, she was one of the ones that was at the Portland Thorns as their manager, and one of the reasons why she was no longer there was one of these reasons. So Sinead Farrelly is a good friend of mine. I've known about this for a few years now, and obviously, finally, the investigations come out and the reports, and it's absolutely disgraceful. I mean, Paul Riley was my coach. I played for the Portland Thorns when Mana Shim and Sinead Farrelly played for that team as well. And obviously, I think the difference is, I think I'm not surprised and I'm not shocked because I think there was just this element of fear. And if somebody like myself felt like they couldn't speak up, how do you think everybody else feels? And I say that within reason because somebody like myself is always speaking up about these types of things and, racism and homophobia. And to hear what one of my best friends, Sinead Farrelly, has gone through is absolutely disgraceful, and it hurts me, and it still hurts her till this day. And hopefully now this won't be happening again. I think the thing that worries me and concerns me is Paul Riley and Christy Holly. They both were given jobs after the fact of these situations had happened. A lot of the players in the league knew about it, raised those concerns, and the owners of the Portland Thorns, Merritt Paulson, Gavin Wilkinson, the general manager, they need to be held accountable. It's not just the perpetrators in Paul Riley and Christy Holly. It's the people that allowed this to happen as well. The commissioner, I know she's resigned now, but, and thankfully the bravery of Erin Simon, Sinead Farrelly and Mana Shim has now hopefully stopped this type of behaviour from happening, because the fact that 5 coaches have gone in the last year since this ruling has come in place is absolutely remarkable. It's absolutely disgusting. It really is. And it makes me sick to my stomach that, I was part of situations like that. It didn't happen to me, but, I was witnessing what was happening, and it was almost like an element of fear that we couldn't really talk about it.
You used the word bravery there to talk about Sinead. There must be a real element of pride that she has stuck with this, that she has kept speaking out, and eventually people have listened, albeit far too late, but now they have listened.
Yeah, absolutely. And unfortunately, Sinead Farrelly, Marna Shim, they both retired from football. When, not that I'm saying it's all down to these reasons, but when you go through such a traumatic experience, it makes you want to remove yourself from something you once loved. And I think that's what makes me feel sick to my stomach, that these coaches have been allowed to get away with this for so many years. When I played for the Portland Thorns, we would go to Paul Riley's house in Long Island, and a whole group of us and the players would stay at his house. Now, that might not seem strange at this moment in time, but looking back on it, I think to myself, how did we allow that to happen? Because it was almost like, people were being groomed at that point as well. And it was happening right in front of our own eyes. And we couldn't even see it because we trusted him. The way you would trust a teacher, the way you would trust a police officer, you put trust in your coaches. And for me, it just makes me so disappointed that this was allowed to be gotten away with for so many years. And hopefully those players that have spoken up now, I mean, for everyone that's spoken up, Rob, I'm sure there's about, 5 to 10 players that have the same story. I know there's players that have not been willing to speak out, which I completely get. They're married now, got families, and it triggers them. So hopefully, the bravery of these players that have spoken out will allow this to not happen again, because it's absolutely shocking that it's been allowed to have been gotten away with for so many years.
You would also say that probably something like this will encourage others to speak out and tell their story as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is 2022 now. I think it's the people now can speak up and feel like they're not going to be, ostracized. I think for myself, when I spoke up in the past, I feel like I've been ostracized, haven't been backed by my teammates. And I will say a special mention has to go to Alex Morgan, because she's used her platform in this situation as well to bring light to Marna Shim and Sinead's story. They've been on all the shows in America bringing light to this. And obviously this is what the Americans do. And this is why, for all the negative stuff, I love living in America and I love my US Women's National Team teammates, because they always stand up for what's right. And when something isn't right, they'll speak about it. So, like I said, the bravery that these players have shown is absolutely remarkable. I spoke to Sinead last night. I messaged her. She's on the East Coast now, and we speak nearly every day. And, I've been there with her every step of the way. And these processes can be quite draining for everybody around as well, because I think about myself. I've spoken to some of my teammates and we think, what could we have done at that moment in time? But I just don't really know, and you start questioning yourself, what could I have done to have prevented this from happening? And, you question yourself in these situations as well.
How often did you see things and hear things that you thought that's not quite right to me? And is it a case sometimes that when you're out of the scenario that you look back now on reflection and think, actually that wasn't right and that set alarm bells ringing, now I think about it again?
Yeah, I think, times like coaches coming on nights out with the team, you're in the back of a bus with the coaches there, and he's kind of in and around it, buying us drinks after a game. It was almost like, he preyed upon people that were vulnerable. He used to say things to me like, you're like a daughter to me. And I'd say, I don't need another dad. I've got a perfectly fine dad, thanks. And I think for someone like myself, he knew I wasn't vulnerable at that situation. So I think these coaches prey upon people that are vulnerable. And I think situations like after games, having drinks, elements of fear. There was one time we'd stayed at his house in Long Island and we were going to go out after a game. And he said, if you don't come home, I'm going to lock the door and not let any of you in. I mean, what kind of behavior is this? I was 28 years old at that moment in time, and it's almost like everything was his way or the highway. And I think that's what the element of fear came. And I think everybody that played under these types of coaches, we'd go to training on a Monday morning. And if they were in a bad mood, regardless win, lose or draw, we all had to kind of, think, oh, is he in a bad mood today or is she in a bad mood today? And that's not how football's supposed to be. We fell in love with the game. I fell in love with the game at the age of 5 years old, like most of my fellow teammates did. And we loved the game. And it comes to a point where you start seeing these types of behaviours. And I look back and I think there was nights out, the manager's there. Why is he there? No one else was there. And it's almost like, and there was moments where you witness things and it still feels weird, quite weird talking about it now, because I could probably write a book on all the stuff that I've seen. And I'm sure a lot of NWSL players and WSL players could probably write a lot of books on situations that happen within the women's game that is not okay.
Leanne, really appreciate you speaking to us about this subject this afternoon. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Rob.